My school is on the other side of town in Taipei, Taiwan. So I wake up at 5:40 a.m. to beat the rush and traffic. Otherwise, it could take up to 2 hours to get to my school on the subway, and I'll be packed in like sardines. So I'm getting my PhD in Taiwan while working 20 to 30 hours a week and running an NGO. And many people have asked me how I manage all of my commitments. So I'm going to give you some tips about how I manage all of these different commitments that I have in my life. Number one, flexibility. You have to find programs or work that are flexible, ideally both. I am very fortunate because both my job and my PhD program are incredibly flexible with my schedule. What this means is that my PhD program allows me to choose classes and times when I want them, for the most part, within reason, obviously. So they don't pre-create my schedule, which was an issue with another PhD program I was considering in Taiwan. So that would have made it basically impossible for me to have a job at the same time, or even to be part of my NGO or run my NGO. So flexibility, at least on one side, is incredibly important, because otherwise something's going to have a conflict, and it could be a huge conflict where you have no way to resolve it, and you're basically picking one side or the other, and it could be completely disruptive to your job or your PhD program. In my current circumstance, the way I have it is my job is in the evening, and a lot of times if I have really important things, my job is really as a debate teacher is relatively flexible. Although I try to limit, of course, how much time I take off. I don't take off often, but when I have a conference that I want to go to, they are completely flexible with me on those types of things within reason, and same with my schooling. So if my PhD program and my job weren't both flexible, I feel like I would have had a lot more stress in this process. So that has made it much more feasible for me to complete my PhD while also continuing my work. Number two, joy. You have to do things that you enjoy if you want to pack your schedule. So when you have a packed schedule, if it's things that you actually enjoy doing, then you're not going to feel necessarily like you're working all the time. Sometimes it's going to feel like that. There are days when I feel like it's, a lot of exhausting work. That's inevitable. But because I enjoy the job that I'm doing and the PhD research that I'm doing, so it doesn't really feel like a job. And I know that sounds super cliche, but it's true. I mean, I chose a PhD program that I'm really interested in. I am studying Asia Pacific studies, which that's my research area that I love reading about anyway. I'm always reading about this subject, and I want to do this research. So I feel like it's smoothly integrated into my life because it's what I do regardless. And so I'm really having a great time learning this material and doing this research, working with professors and having them kind of guide me on my research is a really invaluable experience. Just intrinsically, I feel like I'm gaining a lot from this just in terms of enjoyment. And if you can say that about your PhD program, then I feel like no matter what happens after you complete it, or even if you don't complete it, you really can't look back on it with regret, because you got a lot of enjoyment out of it, and you can always take that knowledge with you no matter what. And at the same time, I love my job. I really enjoy my job of teaching debate. I loved doing debate as a kid in high school, through college. It was my passion. I never thought I'd be uh, a teacher, but I really enjoy being a debate teacher. So when I go and I'm teaching, a lot of times it doesn't feel like work. The only time it really feels like work is when you're not teaching but you're managing the classroom. That can be quite a lot of work. Or when you're doing, remedial stuff, that can be tedious. But that's true with life, and that's true with PhD as well. There are tedious things that you have to do. But by and large, if you can walk away from the majority of your time at work or at your PhD program thinking, I love what I'm doing, I really enjoy this, then it is 100%, in my opinion, sustainable to continue doing both of those at the same time. Number 3 is have a goal. You need to know why you're doing what you're doing. What is the purpose of having your PhD? Why do you want to get a PhD? Or if you get intrinsic value out of it, that's certainly okay as well. That can be a goal in and of itself. But you also should ask yourself, what is the goal of also working at the same time? Is it to pay my bills? Obviously, that's a pretty straightforward goal. If you need to pay your bills, then yes, by all means, go and work if that is what's most financially appropriate for you. But if what your work accomplishes is also contributing to your long-term goals, I think that's even better. So think of, how does the work that you're doing contribute to what you want to accomplish long-term? And if your work impedes that goal, then you should consider just focusing on your PhD, perhaps, if you have the financial means to just concentrate on that instead of working at the same time. But if work is also giving you enjoyment and it is contributing to your long-term goal, whatever it might be, then it makes sense to combine the work that you're doing with your PhD program. I got really good advice from a mentor of mine that turning your work into some aspect of your PhD program is one of the ways to make your PhD more feasible, because you're around it all the time, and so it makes it easier for you to incorporate that if possible. For me, with debate, I'm literally researching and talking about the things that are related to my PhD work. So it's kind of like when I'm researching for debate, I'm also researching some aspects of what I might do with my dissertation, or even for class. There's so many times when I have used the things I learned in class at work, and vice versa. So I feel like these two happen to work very well with each other, and they're both contributing to my long-term goal of being an expert in the area of Asia Pacific studies. The fourth tip that I have is you have to take time for yourself. So this is one that I don't always achieve, because I'm always scheduling things and I always want to accomplish so many things, and I have all these ideas that I want to do. So I do schedule a lot, and sometimes it means that I don't schedule time for myself on some days. But here's the thing. I think it's totally fine to have a day where you just run the clock and you are hustling the whole day and you are getting so much work done. If you're on that flow and that day you get a ton of things done. Sometimes having a busy day with a lot of things packed in, ironically, like I get this you know adrenaline switches on in my mind, and I'm just the most productive on those days where I have a lot packed in. um, but don't do that all the time. When I have those days, the next day I take like maybe half that work or no work at all, and I do, you know, some kind of more laid back activities. It might even be work in a sense, but it's kind of like more relaxed type of uh, work, like reading, or going to a coffee shop and working on some social media stuff that I need to do for my NGO, which is just kind of fun for me. If that doesn't sound strange. Um, so you got to take a breather when you have all this stuff going on all the time. Though the kind of people that are considering doing 20, 30 hours of work a week, plus taking on like NGO and volunteer stuff, like plus getting a PhD. Those types of people often forget this fourth step, but you will burn out. Even if all the other things are true, you really enjoy what you're doing, it's flexible, and you have a goal. If you're packing in 100 hours, something crazy, 100 hours a week of things to do, then you're gonna get burnt out, and you're gonna end up hating all of it. I know that that's happened to me, where like I just feel trapped by my schedule after a certain point because I keep throwing those really, really long days at myself. So you've got to take a breather. You've really got to kind of schedule that in. Ironically, you've got to schedule in not scheduling anything, um, because you'll end up losing sight of why you're doing it in the first place, that you enjoy it, and you might lose that joy. And that's what the real danger is of burnout. So I hope that this kind of helped some people. I think the key is thinking what's right for you at this time in your life. There's, you know, the sky's the limit, and that sounds again cliche, but you get to decide whatever you want to do. I design my life, and you get to design your life, and so you should take whatever ability you have to design your life and design it in the way that you really think is the best for you. And if that means that you want to keep going to school, and you want to work so that you have the money necessary to, in my example, build up an NGO and have that money to engage in the projects that you want to do, to maximize the knowledge you have with your PhD. That is 100% your call, but the key is really thinking about why you're doing it, and really thinking about how you're going to manage that, and making sure that it's feasible, and that you're not going to get burnt out. So I hope this helps some people. Let me know if anybody is also doing a PhD while working and doing volunteer and kind of throwing a million things in your life, because I know that there's other people out there that have a crazy schedule, way crazier than mine. So thanks again for watching.